Choose Love wasn't always called that.
No, it wasn't.
You changed the name. Why was that? When did that happen?
So when we first started, we were actually originally called Help Calais, but then very quickly realised that we needed to be helping elsewhere. So we became Help Refugees. And our logo was designed by a friend of mine who's an artist, and I still really love it and wish that we kind of used it a bit more. Was a barbed wire heart, because of obviously around camps there's so much barbed wire and we're turning it into a heart. So we were called Help Refugees, and in part also because that's what people were Googling at the time. So it was like, if people are going to Google how to help refugees or help refugees, then we would come up. But with time, we realized that actually the word help is quite problematic. And that, people, it creates this kind of like power imbalance, and the idea that people need help, which of course they do. But there's, we just talked about colonialism and all of those things. So it's actually about readdressing balance rather than necessarily like us coming in and helping people. So help, we probably wouldn't have had that word in the title, knowing what we know now.
Yeah.
And then even the word refugees is complicated because it's the refugee status is what entitles people to protection and asylum. So it is really important. But in the kind of political world that we exist in now,
Yeah, but those who don't have that.
Yeah, and the word has become quite stigmatized, and it's used against people, and it creates a kind of us and them. And so we were very lucky. We had a T-shirt designed for a gig that we put on very early on by Catherine Hamnett, and which said "Choose Love," and that became kind of what we were known for. And our socials posts, we would like talk about something, an injustice that had happened, and we'd always put #Choose Love at the end. And people knew us actually more for Choose Love.
Yeah.
And then we felt like, you know what? That's actually more representative of the world that we want to see. And that's representative of, including everyone in the solution and everyone working together. So we changed our name from Help Refugees to Choose Love. And it definitely feels like the right decision.
Has it helped you? Because it's an iconic name now.
Yeah.
It has that everyone knows the logo, everyone's seen the T-shirt. Hopefully a lot of people own those T-shirts. has that really helped?
Yeah, it has. Well, I used
brand?
to find myself saying, I'm the CEO of Help Refugees, and people would say, oh, I don't know what that is. And I would say, have you seen people wearing a Choose Love T-shirt? And they would say yes. And I would say, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
And now I don't need to do that.
Yeah.
I say, I run Choose Love, and people go, oh yeah, I know what that is. So no, it definitely has. And it is a really, it's a strong brand. We're so lucky to have the name.
Let's talk about your very powerful celebrity support that you've got, because it's kind of part of the brand awareness that you have. Benedict Cumberbatch, Olivia Colman, Harry Styles, Dua Lipa. The list really goes on, very impressively so. How have you roped these people in, and why have you done it, and how does it help?
So I think when we started the organisation, we weren't a formal organisation. We didn't have access to applying for grants. So the only way to raise the funding that was needed on the ground was to do that from the public. And, we had a certain community that was following us that was growing. But ultimately, if you want to reach more people, you need people with platforms to speak out. And so it kind of seemed no-brainer strategy to ask people who had those platforms if they would post about it, if they would get involved. And I think people really wanted to do something to help, be that a celebrity or not a celebrity. And so celebrities were actually really grateful for the opportunity to be able to do something that they cared about. And then over time, we've seen how effective that is as a strategy. And I think people who follow someone and they're really interested in what they believe and what they think, when they see someone that they really care about say, you know what, I stand with refugees, it encourages them to go and look up and read more about the issue and then maybe get involved. So it's been amazing over the last 7 years to see all the different people who have got involved. And now people actually come to us and say that they want to get involved. And things like the T-shirt, you know, that celebrities wearing the T-shirt is why the T-shirt sold so well. And yeah, and I know that there's sometimes some criticism, I guess, of the use of celebrities so much in these kind of things. So I think we have to balance it with making sure that we're amplifying and telling the stories of those we're supporting. But everything that Choose Love is about creating community. And so there's room for everyone in that, I hope.
Yeah, it is amazing, isn't it, how it has that impact on people, how it almost verifies what you're doing. Not that it needs it, but it's something.
Yeah.
Maybe it does.
I don't know. I think it's, you know, it takes a lot, I think, sometimes, especially on this issue that is so politicized. You know, people in the public eye can get backlash sometimes for standing up and saying that, you know, the government's policies aren't right, and the fact that they are brave enough to do that, I think inspires people to say, you know what, I am going to take time out of my life to volunteer, or I am going to read up further about that, and I am going to get involved.
When you say what you do is politicized, or the cause that you're promoting, what does that mean for you day to day? Is that a real struggle with people, with government? You know, what do you mean by that?
So, I mean, what's so strange actually about the fact that it's politicized is that it's literally the most opposite of something political. It's about human beings. Yeah. And that's what Choose Love is about. When we were deciding what T-shirt Catherine would design for us, she was saying, but this is just about human beings. And I was telling her about the people that we'd met, and I met people who were like my mom or my grandma, or, you know, if I had kids, they would be my kids. And she said, you know, this is just about humanity and love, and why don't we change? She had an iconic T-shirt called Choose Life that she changed to Choose Love. But, you know, we live in a world where borders are becoming more and more like strong. Walls are being built, riot police boats are being put on borders. You know, governments are using immigration and refugees as a tool to scare people into voting for them. And we, you know, right now in this country, our government wants to send people to Rwanda who are arriving here seeking sanctuary, who have fled things that we can't even imagine. Our Home Secretary recently said in Parliament, these are not refugees that are arriving, these are criminals. And that's literally not true. And so it's really important that we humanize this issue and tell the truth, and that people have access to the true information. But that is, you know, for a lot of people, that, you know, it's quite a big deal to come out and say something different to what the government is saying.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a risk on their own, what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Public work.
Yeah.
In terms of the charity, like you've built, I keep referring to Choose Love as a charity. Is that right? The right thing I should be doing, by the way?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. We sit under an umbrella charity, but yeah, still right to call it a charity.
But you've been so successful in building it as a brand and as an organization, and building its awareness. Have you ever thought, wow, I could put this, you know, I've got the skill set here to build a profitable business? Do you ever think that? Because you've clearly you've built something from nothing with help, but you know, it's come from you. Do you ever think that?
I would be lying if I said that I hadn't.
I welcome honesty on this podcast.
Yes, I have. I have sometimes thought about, wow, gosh, you know, my life could be a bit different if I had put all of this energy into creating a for-profit business. But the truth of it is that I really think that you only succeed at something if you are doing what your true passion is and what you really, really care about. And you can only sell something if you really believe in it. And this is what I really believe in. And so I think if I had tried to set up a company doing something else, it wouldn't have worked, because it wouldn't have been what I was supposed to be supposed to be doing. So and that's probably a good thought process to go through, because it then strengthens your conviction in what you're doing.
Yeah, that's very reassuring as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. It is.
You know you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, exactly. But I do also think that in the charity sector, it is important that, you know, people are paid well, and you know, we want to make sure that we have salaries that mean our team can live, and so we can have, you know, talent in our team who are ultimately the best people to be doing the job by the people that we're supporting. And I think that is an important conversation to be having as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, what do you think about this? You love what you do, and it's very important for you to be doing it. But if there wasn't a refugee crisis, you wouldn't have to be doing it. But I don't really know what my question is. Do you know what I'm trying to get at?
I do. Yeah, I do. And it's when we first started, we used to always say, and this is still true, but maybe it's just not so realistic, like, we want to put ourselves out of business. We don't want to exist. And I think that's a really important element of charity. Like, if you're just trying to perpetuate the system, and if you're profiting off people's suffering, like, that is awful. So initially it was always like, oh, well, we imagine we won't exist in 6 months. Oh, it's been another 6 months, but hopefully governments are going to do right. World's going to sort itself out in another 6 months. We're going to do loads of advocacy, and then that's going to change everything. And again, that was maybe a little bit naive. And when we started, there were 65 million displaced people in the world. There's now 103 million displaced people in the world. How
does that drive you to keep doing the work you're doing, or does it just make you feel like you're banging your head against a brick wall?
It drives me to keep doing the work we're doing, and I think we started out thinking we could change the world. I'm now not sure if we can change the world, but we can definitely change the trajectory of individuals' lives, and that's what gets me up in the morning.
Good. That's so amazing to hear. And please keep going, for goodness sake. What's the toughest part of your job? Off the back of that.
I think seeing what happens in the world, and I think I didn't really know what happens to people, what human beings are capable of, how much injustice there is in the world, and that is hard. Of course, it's much harder for the people actually going through it. So I also don't want to be self-indulgent in that way. And I think running a charity, one of the hardest things is you're trying to achieve so much, but you're having to do it on a shoestring, and you also are. You know, the organization is just starting to get to a place where we have a tiny bit more sustainability, but often you just don't know if your organization is still going to exist in 6 months' time. And so that is really hard. And I think it's something that's so difficult for the charity sector as a whole, is that scarcity, and it actually should be the sector that is most resourced.